Hey everybody, welcome to a very, very special Halloween episode of Yeah But Still. I'm Jack. I'm going to be hosting alone this week. Brandon said that he was way too scared. He was scared of skeletons and Frankensteins and mummies, and he said that he was a baby, and he was too scared to talk about this stuff. So I'm going to have to do it alone because I'm the only brave one. I'm kind of the alpha of the podcast, as you know. So, welcome. It's going to be a little different this week. I've teased a couple times in the podcast that I lived in a haunted house. I've had an interest in ghosts my whole life. It's kind of gone on and off. But I wanted to do a Halloween episode. I originally imagined it would be kind of me and Brandon talking and joking around about it. But I ended up asking some of the listeners if they have any ghost stories, and I got so many submissions. I learned a few things. One of the things I learned was that my ghost stories aren't really that good compared to what some of our listeners have gone through. I also learned that we have listeners from all over the world, which is awesome. Kind of embarrassing because me and Brandon do talk a lot about really local stuff. I think we did an entire episode where we were arguing about a local hot dog place. So that's kind of embarrassing, but it's really cool that we have so many listeners around the world. And I say ghost stories, but I don't necessarily mean ghosts with every story that I received. A lot of these aren't even about ghosts. I have a lot of ones that are just paranormal. This kind of thing gets grouped into the same category all the time, but really it's just kind of really anything that's unknown gets grouped in this kind of Halloween category. But it's interesting because, it's sort of written off as fantasy, but some things are more real than others. Some things are more plausible than others. And I'll get into that. I have my own history with this stuff. I got really interested at a very, very early age. I don't really know why. I had a teacher in my TV class. I always made videos as a kid. I saved up to buy a tape camera when I was like 13 to make, dumb videos with my friends. And then when I got to high school, there was a TV class that finally allowed me to actually do this and have a reason to do it, make projects and learn more. And we had a teacher, I think he was kind of like an assistant. I think he bounced around the district, but he was like a younger guy, super weird. He had, his name was Ellery. I couldn't spell this name. There's a lot of apostrophes in there, but he was like, this young guy, but he was like a ghost hunter. And one class, he told us all about all of this. In fact, him and his friends took a really famous ghost picture. You could look it up. It's if you just search Bachelor's Grove ghost, he took this picture with his friends, and it's a girl sitting on a grave. And it got me super interested. So when I was around 15 or so, I got so deep into this stuff. I was always, looking around for various places I could go with my friends when I was a kid. Just trying to learn about all this stuff nonstop online. I just couldn't get enough. Anything ghost related, paranormal, I was obsessed. And I wound up hearing about this theater in my town. Actually, I was in a bunch of terrible bands. Me and my friends were all in these awful, awful bands. But we played at this theater called the Wheaton Grand. It was actually really nice. It was really old. And I heard that it was haunted. Even though I'd been there a ton, I just found this out. So I made my friend drive me over there because I was too young to drive. And we wound up filming this documentary about the theater. The owner was super stoked. This guy talked to ghosts. He talked to the ghosts in there. He was very much a part of his life on the day-to-day, which is really weird to, if you ever get to meet somebody like that who just their day-to-day involves ghosts, it's super bizarre because they're very nonchalant about it. But this guy, he asked us if we want to, go meet the ghosts or try to film stuff. He was very helpful. And I don't think I actually wanted to. I think at that point I was like, ooh, I might be too deep in this, But so he starts taking us around places. He sends us up this extremely dangerous 3-story ladder up to the attic of this huge theater. We go up there. I'm scared shitless. Like, it's super dark. I have like my terrible camera with night vision. And I just, we went up there. I think I peeked around and scurried back down the ladder. But then the next thing he did, he locked us in the theater, turned off the lights. There's like a huge theater with like a big ornate dome ceiling. And he told us to just kind of look around and see if we see anything. This is where he talks to all the ghosts. And he has a good relationship with them. He told us they're nice and they're not bad. But this man has a full relationship with these ghosts. So he locks me in there. I'm 15. I'm standing in pitch darkness with my stupid camera on night vision mode. And I think, quite frankly, I just wanted to get out of there. But long story short, I think I see something out of the corner of my eye. It kind of blows my mind. And I point the camera in this direction, and I see something on the screen. It's kind of like my one eye was on my LCD monitor. The other eye was kind of looking out into, the actual room. I'm pointed up at this dome in the ceiling, and I see something. I don't know what it is, but I kind of just like catch the glimpse of something. And when I got back home and I was going frame by frame, I see what is very clearly a hand. It's on night vision mode, so everything's kind of green and glowy, but it's fully a hand and an arm. It kind of like moves past the frame. I didn't quite film it. I was like a little too zoomed in, and I didn't move the camera fast enough to get it. But I mean, for me, I got an arm, a ghost arm on camera. It's floating up in the ceiling. There's no reason for an arm to be up there, but I got this. And as I edited this documentary, I started having a lot of problems. I started scaring myself a lot. I was a little too wrapped up in all this, and I was up late editing. I was just kind of I just had like an uneasy feeling the whole time. Started getting really in my head, but I finally finished it, and I had to turn this in. It was a class project, and I was having a lot of problems exporting this tape. This is how we had to turn it in on a tape, and it took a while to render. These are slow computers, and I kept having these errors. I'd have to let it render overnight because it would take so long, and I would wake up and something could be like massively screwed up, but in a way I couldn't explain. I built this computer. I like knew anytime something went wrong, I would know like what went wrong with it. But this would be weird stuff. Like my computer would just be off, like it not even like rebooted, just be like turned off. And I started getting like going crazy over this until one night I just had enough. It was the night before I had to turn it in. And I just sat down there and watched it to see like what it would do. And, a long time goes by. I'm talking like 6 hours. And finally I'm in the room at the right time, and I see it. The project is scrubbing closer to where I have that ghost arm in the timeline. And as soon as it gets to that clip and tries to render it to the tape, my computer just shuts off. And it blew my mind. I was really scared. I start trying everything. I mean, this is kind of a nerdy ghost story because it's kind of based around technology, but I couldn't. I immediately tried to convince myself it was a million other things. You could run into things like corrupted footage or something like that, but this is tape. This is not really digital. So I try literally everything, and finally, I just nothing worked. Nothing worked. Finally, I didn't want to do it, but I was like, I should try taking that clip out and see what happens. And sure enough, I take the clip out. It's like literally like 3 seconds long, this clip. And when I took it out, it worked perfectly. So I never put that my ghost footage in that project. I turned it in without the ghost clip, and nobody really knows about it except for me because I never could get it exported. This all probably sounds really silly. I mean, I'm even giggling at it a bit now because it kind of is. I mean, I'm thinking back to being 15, all scared in my parents' house. But for me at the time, I mean, I was so interested in ghosts, and now I finally saw something, and now it's messing with my computer. That really frightened me, and I kind of in a way that I was just like, I need to stop messing with it. Like, what's the point of messing with this stuff? Why why if it is real, why would anybody go out seeking this? What would be the point? There's nothing to gain. Only bad things could happen in theory. Nothing. You're not going to have something good happen. You're not going to find a ghost and he's going to help you. I guess maybe there's some stories like that, but either way, it's not something to go out looking for. So I just tuned out. I tuned out. I kind of just I wouldn't say stopped believing, but I just stopped thinking about it and just tried to live a non-ghost life, because that's just sort of what you do. And that's like a theme in talking to a lot of people this week for this episode. I heard kind of a similar thing, my story's kind of silly. That first one was kind of silly, but it really scared. I was 15. It really scared me. And just, it didn't sit right with me, so I just kind of put it in my head. You can't, if you come across something like that, you realize, what am I going to do now? You have to go back to living your normal life and just kind of put it out of your head. Until, that is, we're going to flash forward to now I'm in college. My parents have gotten a divorce. My mom lived in Florida. She had moved down there, and she's living with this guy she's been dating for a long time. It's kind of a situation where he may as well be my stepdad, but they're not married. And I hate the guy. I hate him so much. So is my sister. It's pretty bad, actually. There's a lot of big fights that take place down there, but we're just stuck. We have to go down there if we want to see my mom. That's just kind of how it is. And for the most part, we just kind of suck it up. And me and my sister just suck it up so that we can have a good Christmas or whatever it is down there. But it's a spooky house. I actually liked it at first, but not too much. That didn't last very long. It was on kind of like a lake, a small swampy lake in Florida. There was alligators in there, which was kind of cool, but it was very spooky. I used to sneak out to go smoke cigarettes without my mom finding out, and I would always feel really, really weird out there. Like I was being watched. Pretty much all the time, I felt like I was being watched, which is kind of common. But I guess the interesting variable, and I mentioned the relationship with the stepdad type guy because we just kept to ourselves the whole time. Me and my sister, my mom would go to sleep at 9 p.m. like a freak, and me and my sister would just go right in our rooms and keep to ourselves. We weren't out there mingling. We didn't feel comfortable for other reasons, being we never really felt like it was our house. So it's not like we were out watching TV together or dicking around. We just kind of put our heads down and would go to our room and hopefully fall asleep because of the family stuff. I would sneak out for cigarettes, like I said, from time to time, and I would always there are these long hallways. It was a horseshoe shaped house, and it was all centered around a kitchen and a big outdoor patio. So all the rooms were on the outside in a horseshoe shape, but there was one long hallway, and I would always I felt like my mom was looking at me, I would have to look down there. You just get that sense that somebody's looking at you. I would check a couple times. I would always have it though, but my mom would always be asleep. But I always felt weird out there. So I would rarely leave except for that. But from time to time, I would hear my sister out there in the kitchen making midnight snacks. And my mom would do a Costco shop before we got there, which was amazing, to have an adult fridge full of Costco food. And I would hear my sister out there opening stuff up and cracking open food. And I would get so excited, right? Because I'm hiding in my room, feeling very uncomfortable. And finally it's oh, my sister's still awake, time for a midnight snack. And I would go out there and she'd be gone. She'd be back in her room, and I would usually be disappointed. Sometimes I would get something to eat. Sometimes I wouldn't. But it's I didn't really want to hang out there too long. It just felt weird. Not because of ghosts or anything, but just because the situation. This happened all the time though. I'd be super bummed because I'm damn it, hit me up, text me if you want to get a midnight snack. Let's do this together. But that would happen all the time, and I never really thought anything of it until my mom called me. I was walking around the streets of Chicago one day, and she called me, and she was really upset. And she actually wanted to patch in my sister. So we did like a 3-way call, and she tells me that that she thinks the house is haunted. And she starts telling us like all of these insane stories. And I mean, the first thing she told us was that she hears somebody out in the kitchen. And what she tells me is a very similar version of like what I've experienced. But I still am kind of like skeptical of my mom. So I was like, oh, Mom, that's probably me and Christy getting midnight snacks. Like, Christy's always getting midnight snacks. This is my sister's name. And I get them sometimes too. And my sister's like, Jack, I never get midnight snacks. I'm scared of that house. What are you talking about? And me and my sister have this whole like back and forth right there. And I'm like, I hear you all the time out there. I go out there and you're back in your room. She's like, I never leave that room. Like, I never leave that room. I hear you out there. And I have to tell her, I was like, I usually go back in my room after that because I don't want to be out there. We basically realized that like nobody's out there. But I'm telling you, I hear specific food items being opened. It's not just like weird noises. Everybody knows those types of plastic containers from Costco or wherever, like cookies that are insanely loud to open. I would hear her like opening those cookies. I would hear forks. I would hear her go get a cup from the cabinet, close the cabinet, go get crushed ice from the refrigerator ice machine and fill up a cup of water. Like specific, I knew, I could tell what she was doing. And nobody would be out there. I figured it was her until this very moment. So at that point, we're all very spooked because that kind of like confirmed it for all of us that nobody's been out in that kitchen, and it's been going on for years, right? So all of a sudden, what was stupid and normal became kind of frightening. But my mom revealed to us that she's had way worse problems. She's in that house every day alone, and she slowly kind of like lets it out that she's had really bad stuff. I'm talking like coming home to all the doors open and all of the cabinets opened, thinking that somebody broke in, but nobody had taken anything. Stuff like that. Hearing people, a lot of the cabinets opening, stuff like that. And at a point where it's like kind of driving her crazy, you know? So I guess she came home one day, and the same type of thing happened, but she goes out and there's these kids in the front yard from the cul-de-sac, and they say, I forget exactly how they opened this up, but they said something to her about red eyes in the window, and she starts asking them about it, and she kind of comes to find out that this is a known house, a known haunted house in the neighborhood. The kids come and they say that you could see red eyes looking out of this bathroom window. Well, they say they don't know it's a bathroom window, but we know it to be our bathroom window. And my mom knows, she didn't tell us, but she knows that the people who lived in the house before us died, and one of them died in that bathroom. And these kids see red eyes looking out of the bathroom window. And yeah, that was nuts because we didn't move or anything. We had to keep going back. We had to just kind of live there for a while. And there's nothing really you could do. I mean, it's like, what do you do? I would come back there. Honestly, it is fairly easy to distract yourself. I would hear the kitchen thing after that. I would hear somebody out in the kitchen. I would know it's not my sister or anybody. And it was really weird. I would hear, somebody's in there messing with the food, getting drinks, and I would know it's not a person, and I would just kind of go to bed. What else can you do, really? But it was I had to be there. I had nowhere else to go. If I wanted to see my mom, I would have to go down there. I guess eventually she had a breaking point. It just got too bad, and she lost it, and started screaming at the house. And screaming at them, saying, this is my fucking house. Leave me alone. This is mine now, blah, blah, blah. Just lost it. And weirdly enough, she said things calmed down after that. And, at a certain point, they got rid of the house, moved. and that was that. But for a long time, I just had to kind of be there dealing with it, and it was weird. It was like, it's a weird thing to be faced with something like that. Day-to-day life can be really, really boring. You could get bored of living in the real world, I guess. And people like to escape. They like to hear ghost stories. They like to hear about the paranormal, because it kind of gives you the sense of, okay, what if there's actually more to all of this, right? Same with religions too. I mean, that's super important. People really like the idea that there's more than what we experience at face value. But then what's bizarre is when you're faced with it, you kind of just want to go back to the way it was, because that's a lot to deal with. You see the evidence of there being more, but you don't know what it is or why it is. It's just a lot. I also think that once you open yourself up to that, you kind of become attuned to that kind of thing. You start noticing it more, and I really don't know how any of it works. I don't have any answers, but I think once you experience something like that, you're familiar with it, and I feel like you're more likely to experience it later, or you notice the kind of stuff. I think I really don't know how it works. I just I know that for me, I've had to to go back in that house, I had to just kind of force myself not to believe or to not take it seriously. It's hard to explain, but that's pretty much how I live. I don't really, I don't know. I don't mess around with that kind of thing too much. It's like I enjoy hearing the stories. I have really good ones today, but I lived in a haunted house, and it was weird. You just have to force yourself to just go to bed and ignore that there's a ghost making food in the kitchen. I'm grateful that it was never anything more than that for me. My mom had the worst of it, but I talked to a lot of really cool people this week that had even crazier stories. I'm glad. I don't think the ghosts in my house were harmful. I think they're probably old people, just kind of going about their day-to-day life, maybe sort of like an echo. So that was good. I never felt threatened. I have for you today some stories that I've been collecting from our listeners. Some of them are more elaborate and crazy than others. All of them make my ghost stories look really lame, because these are pretty insane. And I think what the coolest thing about all of this is that these are all people that have no reason to lie. They're people who listen to the podcast. They're at least similar interests, and when you're watching these travel channel shows or whatever, it's a lot different when it's some random kook getting paid, $1,500 to tell their ghost story. There's a lot of incentive to make shit up and embellish. These people have no reason to lie. Half the time, a theme in all of these is that it's frustrating afterwards because you feel stupid telling the story, or people don't believe you. Even the more ridiculous it is, the scarier it is, the less likely people are to believe you. And you just kind of have to put it out of your head. A lot of people have these stories and don't even tell anybody, or they forget about it. I'm going to start it out with a story from my friend. I'm not going to mention her name, but she told me this one. It's kind of a fun one. I personally think this is a funny story. It's also very scary. She told me it as a funny story. She grew up in LA, and she always has these stories from private middle school in LA. Kids who grew up here, it's just a totally different thing, right? These stories from when they were in middle school, the kind of bling ring style stories of just the partying and craziness, and the genre of drama that's just on a different level, because it's out here so far from what I experienced growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. But she told me this story kind of as a funny one. I think part of the reason the story is funny is because some of the people in the story are semi-famous now, but she can't name names. She wanted to not have her name in this either. It's not even worth guessing because it's it's not even that crazy. But I always thought this was a funny story, but it's also scary to me. So here is my friend's ghost story that I recorded just a little bit ago. And after this, we'll get into some weirder ones.
This was my 13th surprise birthday, and I was super pissed that it was a surprise birthday. So I was like really angry in the beginning of the night that like my mom had fooled me and I wasn't actually doing what I thought I was doing in the beginning of the night. So my mom surprised me with like a bunch of my friends at a nail salon, and I was like so mortified. There were like 15 girls from my school and other schools. So I was already super upset that that was
Super pissed you had a
happening.
birthday.
Super pissed. Yeah, I don't like surprises. So fast forward, we were all having a big sleepover, and my friend, let's just call her L,
Okay.
decided she wanted us to do a big seance because I had this Ouija board. And I don't think I had ever properly used the Ouija board before because I didn't really care or believe in any of that stuff. But she's is super eccentric and interesting. And so she wanted to conduct this like very proper, like satanic ceremony. And we were all super down. So she like went into like the kitchen. Mind you, this is like 11 o'clock at night. My parents are asleep upstairs. She goes into the kitchen. She gets, I think it was like baking powder or like some white substance. We pulled the carpet out of my room. We put the like a huge circle of baking powder around all of us. We put the Ouija board in the middle. I was just going along with the ride. And so the Ouija board's in the middle. We're all like putting our hands on it, saying stuff. Elle is doing the seance, and all of a sudden, like the little like Ouija puck or whatever starts moving around, and we're all like freaking out, and we're like, "What the fuck is going on?" And so it's like we're like, "Okay, is there a spirit here?" And then it's like YES, and we're like screaming, and then we're like, "Okay, who is it?" And they're like, it's me. It like it goes to ITS, it like goes one letter at a time. It takes like 20 minutes. And so we're all flipping out. And okay, this is like gonna sound really bizarre, but so we're screaming, we're freaking out because it's like there's someone here, it's me. And so we turn the lights on because we're all like too scared for our own good. And all of us had been sitting in this tiny little circle, and the baking powder line was like a good 2.5 feet, probably from each of our backs. And when we turned the lights on, all over the baking powder were like it looked like someone had dragged their hand through almost every portion of it. Like it was like dragging, like marks all throughout the baking powder, like disruptions throughout the entire circle. And so we were super freaked out. And then the part that like made us scream the loudest was my friend who was running the seance. She had this little phone that wasn't even a phone. It was more like it was like the size of like a really large cotton ball, and she wore it around her neck. It had 2 buttons on it, and it was a tracker, so her parents knew where she was because she was never where she said she was. So they could like see where she was, and it had 1 button, and she could call home, and their parents could call her. I mean, it was super low tech. So once we had turned the lights on, Elle's phone like started vibrating furiously, and we went over to it, and it's not supposed to receive text messages because it doesn't have any buttons on it other than the home phone number and to end the call. And on the screen of her little tracker phone, it said, "It's me." And we all screamed so loud. We were so freaked out. Like, one of my friends started crying, and like 5 minutes later, the police department shows up at my parents' house because I guess my neighbors had called the police because we were like 7 girls were screaming at the top of their lungs. And so the police came, and my mom thought it was like so hilarious and cool that the police showed up. So she like, instead of trying to be like, "Oh, sorry, we'll be quieter," she like let them into the house and like let them into my bedroom. And like the police opened the door, and they're standing there, and we're like huddled with like baking powder everywhere and Ouija boards, and they just like shamed us. And it was funny, but like I don't know, it was really bizarre. I mean, I part of me like wanted to believe that it was happening, but like the other part of me was like, how can this be possible that all of these things happened? But like I'm still super suspicious. To this day, we all are like, how the fuck did that little phone receive a text message? How did it say the exact same thing that the Ouija board said to us? None of us in the room like had our phones or like were on it or anything. It was really fucking weird.
The thing was, it like couldn't text?
No, it couldn't text. It had two buttons. Imagine like something the size of like your pinky. It's like a little, like shaped like a puck, like a little rock. And then it has a little miniature screen. And then it has two buttons, one to answer it and one to one you can answer the call and one you can end the call, but the one that you can answer the call, you can also call the one number that's programmed into it, which was her parents' phone number. And it's funny because like my friend who was like running the whole like Ouija experience was the one who like got the shit kicked out of by this like bizarre spirit, and we're all just like, you wanted this, you know? And it was so insane. I think to this day she's like traumatized by it. So I have not touched a Ouija board since that experience also, mostly because they're kind of fucking terrifying.
All right, welcome back. See, I always liked that story. I really liked it when she told it to me because, well, quite frankly, I know her pretty well, and I know that she's the type of person that would think all of that stuff is really, like, every aspect of it would be really, really stupid. She would, like, not be interested in this type of stuff, and it kind of, like, happened to her by accident. And also the phone always really messes with my head. I literally don't know what she's talking about with this like tracking device. Quite frankly, that whole thing is really funny that this girl even had that. But it's very bizarre, you know. And I like stories like that where it's something that you can't explain and the person didn't even want it to happen to them in the first place. That's my favorite type. I hear a lot of BS. I hear a lot of BS stories, and kind of like sad BS ones too. I hear a lot of them where it's like somebody really wanted. You could tell they wanted something to happen, and they're kind of like willing themselves to believe it. But of course, I know her to be a person that literally could not care less about ghosts, not even interested, and it was just something that was kind of forced into her world, and wound up being kind of, I mean, she tells it in a funny way, but it actually, if I was there, it sounds pretty terrifying. So I'm going to jump right into our next story. This comes all the way from New Zealand. From one of our listeners. Actually, to be more specific, this comes from American Samoa, which I didn't know. I had to do a little research after he talked to me about this, but he grew up, he was sent to live in a village out there with his older relatives as kind of a punishment. I guess this place is home to one of the last groups of people who stopped doing cannibalism, and that's where he wound up getting sent to live. Our listener's name, his real name is actually very, very long. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I'll have him do that for us. But he goes by Ethan, so I'm going to call him Ethan. But yeah, this one's very unique, and I'm just going to let him tell the story.
So my full name's actually Su'umalo Iteni Shwago, which is my Thai title from Samoa, but my English name's Ethan, and I'm based in New Zealand, but I was raised in Samoa for a bit. Samoa and the Pacific Islands, they're pretty superstitious when it comes to sort of, you know, anything regarding spirits and death and things like that. And our village of Waitongi was one of the last recorded places in the Pacific to stop cannibalism. So it was always had a bit of a haunting sort of background, but they reckon, you know, years ago, maybe over 100 years ago, the village actually was full of sinners and criminals and murderers and things like that, and the village actually caught on fire. And while the village was on fire, the villagers would go to the water with coconuts and they'd fill it with water and they'd run back to the fire to try and douse the fire out with water. But every time they threw it onto the fire, it supposedly turned to oil, and the fires just got bigger. And then after a weekend-long affair, basically everyone in the village was dead. When I was 15, I sort of like dropped out of high school, and I was just sort of hanging out with the wrong people and things like that. And I was a trouble teen to say the least, and it's pretty common in sort of Samoan families and Pacific nations, for like, if the kids are sort of misbehaving, they're not really appreciative of what they have, your family will sort of send you back to the island. So my dad gave me a one-way ticket back to Samoa, and sort of the goal of it is like you work on the plantations. It's sort of supposed to bring you back down to earth, make you go back home with a greater appreciation for everything you have and behaving a bit better, and it works, I reckon. Well, when you first get there, the first night it's real obvious. Like, people will always cover their mirrors at night, because they believe that, if you look in the mirror at nighttime, like especially around midnight, that you might see the spirit, and the spirit might try to take you back. And like, you also get told, like, you're not supposed to whistle at night. Whistling is just like a super big no-no. Apparently it sort of invites spirits into your home. Like, you're supposedly saying, like, welcome, come on in, this is where we live, this is where we sleep. I thought it was all gibberish, I was like, you crazy backwoods people living in the bush, like, something's not right with you. And my auntie gave me that story, and I thought she was just playing around with me. So like, one night when we were having dinner, I whistled, and my auntie beat my ass. She was like, you can never do that again in this home, we're sending you away. I was like, it's that serious? She's like, yeah, like, you cannot do that in this place. Yeah, so I didn't have a job or school at the time, so I was sort of just home alone in the day. I went outside to have a cigarette. I sort of snuck away from everybody, so I went way away. Our driveway was like, a good 100 meters long. It was midday. I was like, the best place I can go to make sure no one's going to see me have a cigarette is right out on the road, right tucked in by the bushes, by the bus stop. And I was like, okay, this is where we're going to go. I get down, nobody's around. It's clear for days. There were no other houses from our sort of driveway for like maybe another 3-minute drive, maybe like a couple 100 meters. So, I sat down on the sidewalk and I light up the cigarette, and, the sun's beaming down, everything's good. And then I hear this thing in the bush behind me, and I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be an animal. I was worried because, dog attacks are super, super common in Samoa. And I was like, all right, okay. So I get up, and then this dog comes out of the bushes, and it's this little, it's maybe a year old, this puppy. It's blonde. It's a super skinny, like super malnourished, like I'd say Labrador. And it comes out and it sort of looks at me, and I didn't click it first, but when I took a better look at it, like the whole body of this dog was just like open wounds. Like, this dog had been poured over in oil. This dog had been lit on fire, and it looked like maybe the fire had just been put out. Like, it looked super fresh, the wounds. So obviously, like, I love animals. I freak out. I'm looking at this dog. It looks super sad. It looks super hurt. So I'm like, I should grab this dog and make sure it's okay. And when I sort of like go to grab the dog, it just freaks out and it hurls into the bush. I follow this dog out into the woods, and we're walking for we maybe get 100 meters deep into the bush. And, when you go through the bush, you have to be careful, because, like, when the Great Burning happened, they sort of just buried all these people where it was clear, and eventually they just didn't look after it, and this forest has grown around these graves, and you don't want to stand on the graves. So you sort of watch where you're walking, but I'm still trying to catch this dog, and we get deeper into the woods, and then it goes behind this tree, and it just disappears. Like, I don't know where it could have gone, but it just disappeared, like, into thin air. And, I'm looking around for this dog, and then I sort of realize, like, the ground's really firm. I don't know. This isn't grass. This isn't sand. So I sort of look down, and I realize that I'm actually standing on something concrete. And as I sort of, brush my foot around to sort of see what it is, I realize I'm standing on a gravestone. So I sort of, I step back, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, well, I've lost this dog, and now I'm in the woods with a bunch of dead bodies and gravestones and things like that. And when I look closer at the gravestone to sort of see, is there a name, or what year is this? The grave doesn't actually say anything. It just says the words Devolo, which in Samoan means devil, which is not the most exciting thing to find in the bush. I lost the dog, and here I am standing on supposedly the devil's grave. Ugh. I ran home crying. I was freaking out. I talked to my auntie that night, like when she got home from work. I was telling her what happened, and she's like, "You don't follow dogs into the woods." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Apparently, supposedly, you follow dogs. Like, if a dog runs into the forest and you follow it into the woods, they take you to wherever they died, and the spirit will, snatch your life and take over your body or something like that." they didn't doubt for a second that it happened. They were just like, "Oh yeah, don't do that again." I was like, "This is casual. This happens." Like, we went back to see if we could actually find where it was, because like my cousins were like, "There's no way the grave said Divolo." I was like, "I'm certain it did it," because that's why I freaked out. And we didn't walk too far, because obviously like there's genuine superstition there, but we genuinely just couldn't find it at all. Like we would have walked around for maybe 30 minutes to an hour trying to find this thing. Never again. It was unreal. I've never found the gravestone again. Like, we tried to find it, but I don't know where the hell it was or where the hell I was. So.
All right, welcome back. I really liked that one. Not only is it from a completely different culture than I'm used to, it just really, I don't know, it got to me. The dog, everything about it, I could, like, I've been in that situation before, not that situation, but I understand that, being in a completely normal setting, doing something very mundane, and then slowly something becomes very weird. Not only that, but the entire experience and growing up there is really fascinating to me, and also just the fact that everybody around him in this community believes in spirits in a very real way. I've gotten a taste of that. There's a town in Florida. It's called Casadega, Florida. You might have heard of this town from the Bright Eyes album titled Casadega. He went down there and wrote an album there. But it's a town full of mediums and spirits. There's like a camp there you can learn to harness your skills as a medium or a psychic. But everybody down there believes in ghosts. I visited there one time, and it's just like, it's a normal town. It's very spooky. It's supposed to be really haunted, but everybody there believes in ghosts, and it's a very casual thing. It's not like a scary thing, but it's weird to hear people like at the grocery store chatting about that kind of stuff casually. They talk about having a spirit in their yard, like as if you would have like a rabbit problem in your garden. But yeah, that one really got to me. I wound up talking to him a bit more after, and he told me a little bit more. It's a funny note is that I guess a way that people solve spirit problems there, because there's a lot of them, is swearing at the ghosts. But you have to do it in the native language of the ghost or it won't work. But I guess like he was laughing about it, but yeah, just like cursing at them and telling them to get out, which is funny because that's exactly what my mom did. Weirdly, I think, I've heard that a lot. I think it's something that can work, unless it's something really bad and you'll just make it mad. But it seems to work, and it is just kind of funny, cussing at nothing, but it seems to work. So anyway, thank you, Ethan, for that story. I'm gonna go right into our next one. This is another really good one. This is not a ghost. This comes from Ryan. He's from Massachusetts, and basically, he saw Sasquatch. He saw a Sasquatch. It sounds silly saying that out loud, but I mean, it's a really credible story, and I could relate to it in a lot of ways. I like hearing these stories from like our listeners, because a lot of the times they're in situations that are very familiar to me. You'll learn what I'm talking about, but I could like actually put myself in their shoes. And I've talked to all these people. I could tell when people are lying. These people are not lying. In fact, a lot of them are nervous to tell the story because I think I won't believe them. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. And with this, it's not, Bigfoot and Sasquatch. There's a bunch of really terrible shows and documentaries about it. And it's categorized in with ghosts, but a lot of people have seen this stuff. And if we just discovered one, it wouldn't really be that crazy anymore. It'd just be a different animal. So it's not that wild. It's not, if we discovered one, it would be a big thing for science, but it wouldn't like change the laws of physics. I mean, it would just be an animal. So I thought the story was really cool. I'm going to let Ryan tell it, but this is another one that I really, really liked and was stoked to get. So here's Ryan.
So my name's Ryan. This happened in Massachusetts, and I think December 2012, I want to say. I was a junior in high school. It was like the night of like we got out of school for Christmas break. So probably like in the 21st or so. So we celebrated by going to Sky Zone. It's like one of those like trampoline places that was like really like taken off at the time. Went there till stayed till close or so, which is probably like 11. Then we went to McDonald's, which is like, it was a later night. It was probably till like 12:31 ish. And I just got my license, so I was dropping some friends off across town, and then I was coming home. It was probably 12:30, 12:31, pitch black. I'm on this dark back roads. It's this like area of town called, people call it Narnia. It's like just a ton of open like land and hills, and there's a bunch of like weird trees, and there's deer all the time there. And I'm driving along there, and I'm using an iPad as like the aux cord DJ at the time. I didn't have an iPhone, so a song comes on my shuffle. I want to change it, so I slow down, look down at my iPad, and change the song. And when I look up, I just lock dead eyes. This like 8-9 foot hairy creature just like staring right at me. I got like my head beams on, and it's just lighting up its eyes. I'm just locking in. Like if you thought of what you'd think of when you see Bigfoot, right? It's just like massive, almost gorilla-like creature. But I think it kind of looked more like Chewbacca-ish. Like it was like not. It didn't seem like it was in like that great of shape. Like it wasn't super intimidating, and like it was very hairy, like longer hair. I feel like normally it's depicted as more of like an ape, but this is like just like a big giant hairy man. That's what it looked like. I could see its face. I mean, it was like, again, really dark, and the light was really reflecting off the eyes, so I couldn't see too much, but it was very, I'd say, like stoic. Like it wasn't intimidated by me, but also it wasn't angry. It was more just like we were both, in a way, surprised at what we were seeing. And I'm, stunned, obviously, like, don't know what I'm looking at. So I'm probably just staring at it for like 3 to 5 like solid seconds, not moving, before the light from my car, because I'm kind of rolling, just passes right past it. The minute that happens, I probably speed away at like 90 miles per hour, just getting out of there as fast as I can. And, I call all my friends up, like telling them exactly what I saw. And they are just like, I don't know. I feel like, because I'm usually one to joke around, so I think they were all skeptical, which is why it was tough for me to like actually get them to believe what I saw. Yeah, it's weird. I looked it up after too, because I was intrigued by the whole Sasquatch thing, especially because of it didn't seem harmful or anything. And there's different. Apparently, there's different like species of Sasquatch, and some are more aggressive than others. So depending on, what their gender is, depending on what region of the world they're in, they have different demeanors. So I guess the one that I saw was a little bit more of like a calmer species. Yeah, it was definitely terror, but it was more terror because I was I was seeing something that I didn't believe could exist. You know what I mean? So like, I think that sort of transitioned into like more of like intrigue and interest, you know what I mean? Like surprise. Whereas like, I think if I saw a ghost, I'd just automatically be like scared, and I would just be freaking out. It was almost frustrating to try to explain to other people. But I think, as time went on, it sort of, if anything, like opened up my mind to just like, what else could be out there? Nothing's off the table.
Welcome back again. A funny thing that I wound up cutting out, because me and Ryan kept talking after I did that interview, but when he told me about this, I looked up the area where he's from in Massachusetts, and I guess there's a bunch of sightings over there. There's an area, I forget the name, but it's like a triangle in Massachusetts where all sorts of weird stuff happens, and a lot of people have seen Sasquatches there, and he had no idea. So I hopefully he's in a hole researching that stuff now. But I thought that story was really cool, and just bizarre. I really I can't imagine what that's like to see something like that, and then kind of you just have to go on living your life, because it just opens up so many questions, and maybe even questions you don't really want to answer or don't have time to. It's like, and with him, it just happened. I mean, I think most people who went to high school can put themselves in those shoes where you just like, you're driving down some like weird road, goofing around, you're in the zone, and you don't even realize you're in a weird place. I really related to using an iPad on a shitty stereo. I put me back in the zone of like having an awful broken iPod, like that nearly gets me in car accidents because I'm trying to change the song. But that one was really cool. Thank you, Ryan, for telling that story. This next one requires a lot of context, I think. There's a lot in here. The listener who sent it to us is from Ecuador, and it's a really cool story, but it's a little bigger than just his story, you know. Me and him exchanged quite a few emails before this because I was immediately fascinated. This has to do with UFOs. But this place where he lived, it's very, very interesting, right? So, and there's several layers to it. I think it's kind of important to give a setup. So this is in Ecuador. It's like a small beach town. And what struck me is that there's so I need to take a step back. Two of the early groups of people that live there, that are, you know, taught in schools, you learn about them in schools in Ecuador. There are these two groups, and there are ruins around the area. A couple of them are deep in caves, but they're kind of famous because these people had all of these engravings and things like that. And the engravings all kind of look like a little more alien than human. These are, you know, short people with big heads, UFO type stuff, and it's very, very mysterious. There's these caves down there that have all of these bizarre engravings, and there's a lot of mystery around it. And also, people have had a lot of UFO sightings here, a lot, like to the point when he will explain this in the story, but it's like very commonplace in the area. People talk about this all the time. I guess they say that, you know, UFOs come down there very often, and it's super isolated as well. The other big plot twist, and this really sticks out to me, I guess, so after the moon mission, Neil Armstrong moved down there to this small town in Ecuador, and I guess he like bought a house and was living down there, which is very bizarre to me. And he went on a couple of these explorations down in the cave to study these people, which is very, very, very bizarre to me. The amount of UFO sightings, and the fact that Neil Armstrong, you know, after going to the moon, he could do anything in the world. He moves down there as kind of a young man too, not in his older years. That's very, very bizarre. I've always been really interested in UFOs. Super fascinating to me. I don't know what I believe in this kind of stuff, because, you know, I think when it comes to UFOs, there's also a lot of, it kind of gets into like secret government projects, you know, like how many times have people seen what they think is a UFO and it's actually just some super secret government project? How much is a mix of that? We don't really know. It's very bizarre, but it's an undisputed fact that Neil Armstrong moved down there after the moon mission. And I've never heard about that before, but I saw all these reputable articles. There's photos of him down there. Everybody knows him down there. It's very bizarre. And just the amount of people who have seen them in this area, it's a lot of, it opened up more questions than it answered. It's kind of, after hearing his story and reading some articles, I was very much like, what is going down in this area of Ecuador? Why was Neil Armstrong there? What are in these, what's in these caves? Why is he going down there? A lot of questions, but I'm going to let him explain the story. His name is Edgar, and he's from Ecuador. He's emailed us before. He's sent us pictures of a Joker-themed pizza restaurant in Ecuador, and I apologize because our connection was not great on this call, so it kind of cuts out a little bit. But the gist of his story is that him and his friends, when they were young, they would stay at this really isolated beach house, and there was a family that took care of the property, and I guess I guess that a lot of families have gone through this job very quickly. Like a lot have like abruptly left. And the new family that came in, they had a little son, and the son would tell them about the UFOs that would come down. And one day he said that they're coming today, and everybody kind of laughed at him. And then that night they saw something. So here's Edgar, and this is his story.
Miss Edgar, I'm from Ecuador in South America. I'm 30 years old, and long story short, it was like this. We were like 12 or 13 years old at the time, maybe, and at that time we had cell phones and we had internet, but it was like you didn't have internet at the beach at that time. And this house where the events took place, it was located in the southern part of Ecuador in some beaches along the coast, which have are very very far away from the city, and they have limited infrastructure regarding like the villages and the things that are around it, so you don't have a lot of signal there. You'll see actual signs of spaceships, like spaceship crossings in the little towns going there, and that's crazy. And because like when we were younger, you wouldn't have the internet, nothing there. We used to hang out with my friends near the little villages, and all of them said like, yeah, these guys come once a month, or this on this and this date. I think like once every 3 months or something. Like, yeah, they came and it's a big bright light, and they just like millions of years ago, they just come and check us out, or they come and check out this and this thing that we really didn't understand. We really thought it was just spooky shit. We only thought they were fucking with you. All right. So it was 2002 or 2003, and we were hanging out at my friend's house at the beach. It was called San Jose, Saint Joseph, like the city in California, and he has a big. It's called pergola. I don't know. It's like a little thingy with a roof that you have like in parks. We were hanging there, and it was like a really. It was weird because it was a really starry night, but cloudy at the same time. But there was like a little circle that you can actually see, like a starry little circle, and the rest was like gloomy. And I was forgetting the cool part of the story. The son of the housekeepers was telling us that he saw these people coming down too, like, and it was coming for him too, and he said like they are coming today. The other people, they were telling that story like in general, but this guy actually told us because he lived there, and he was like from a new family that came to the house because the last one they left, and this new family, this guy came. We didn't know him, and he was like, yeah, today is the day, like they are coming down. And we were like, okay, so this kid is part of the joke too. He's actually everyone likes to do this kind of shit. So we were like, okay, never mind. But we thought it was really spooky. So, and that night we were like hanging out in this thing I told you, and I see like a little disc, like a blue light or blue disc, like at the horizon, and like just in the little part that you can see stars, but it didn't move. It was just like a really bright light, and I was telling my friends like jokingly, like, hey, look at that. This was the thing the kid was talking about, and everyone was talking about that. We actually get to see this shit, and my friends were like, no, you're that's not it, blah blah. Then this shit started like moving towards us, like really slowly, and it became brighter and bigger, obviously, and now we were all really like how you say, like deer in headlights because of this, but still, like, you always try to find the logical thing to this, and it's like, no, maybe it's okay, 40% it's an UFO, 60% we were just seeing some shit that we don't know what it is, and maybe. But when all that was like going through my head, this thing like just like went down a little and then shoot itself like 100,000 kilometers into the sky, and everyone was just like, fuck this, we're going back to Waco, it's our city. And we were like, just went into the house, and the parents of my friend were like, what? No, fuck this, we're going to a car. Like, no, you can't drive because it's a 3-hour drive between the mountains and shit. You cannot drive back to our city like that. And we were like 12, 13. And we took a car and we took it, and they had to stop us like at Montañita. It's a little town outside of that. It was crazy. Like, that was like the second or third time that happened in that house, because my friend used to rent that house, and then he bought it. But before that, he used to rent it, and the families before that, they were normal people, and they had a family. They were from the northern part of the country, and they actually said that they had experienced UFO sightings there too. Like, they hid behind a little forest. It's not a forest, but it's like a lot of pine trees or some shit, tall shit. They used to hide in the distance behind that and move around and then shoot themselves up to the sky. Like, it was like the normal thing to see there.
All right, we're back. Well, that was a lot for me. That was one of those where I had to stop myself, because me and him, it really opened up a can of worms for me. For me, that type of stuff is something I could go in a very deep hole researching. And especially with UFOs, I'm very fascinated. It's crazy, you know? There's a lot of mystery involved. The Neil Armstrong thing still it's a very weird fact. I don't know what he was doing down there. Why would he move to this obscure town in Ecuador that's really known mostly for UFO sightings, but only locally? Super bizarre. I don't know. I also think it's really important to note that I don't know if you could catch it in the story or not, but him and his friends, I think they were 12 or 13. After they saw that UFO, they stole a car or something and drove. They tried to drive to a different town to get away because they were so scared. I think it was like, might have been hard to catch exactly what was going down in that story, but I mean, that's insane to me, especially in the middle of the night. These like 12-year-olds driving away to a faraway town, and I guess they got stopped by police or something, and the police were just like, "Go home." I mean, that's one of the wilder parts of the story. And then I guess there was a lot more, you know, from the people who lived there before. They used to see these UFOs all the time. Very weird. Very weird. I don't know. That's I'm super fascinated by that stuff, but I just wish, once again, it's a subject where there's so much bullshit out in the world that it is cool to hear a story that you can trust from somebody who experienced it and not just like some bad Netflix documentary. So anyway, thank you, Edgar. That was insane. And I personally, I've been in the whole researching this place. I'll leave some info about this in the description if you guys want to dive in a bit yourself. The next story comes to us from Mexico. Once again, really cool to learn that people from all these different countries listen to the podcast. I got so many submissions, honestly. I got one from somebody who lived in Korea. That was a really cool story. So many I didn't get around to recording, just from all over the place. And it's kind of overwhelming. This actually, I worked on this for a long time to put this together, a lot of different Skype calls. But this one is from Mexico. Is the person originally emailed me with one story, and he wound up telling two different ones when we actually talked, because he remembered another one that was really significant. It's actually, the second story he tells is about a famous ghost called La Llorona, I think was the name, and they're actually making a movie about this ghost. It's like very famous. But yeah, it was something that he experienced later on with his mom, and super vivid and bizarre. And then the first story is really good as well, just very specific and unique. So this is Adrian. The story takes place in Mexico, where he was raised, but I think he lives in the East Coast now. And yeah, here's Adrian. He's going to tell us the story.
So my name's Adrian. I'm living right now in New Haven, Connecticut. I used to be from a little town in Puebla in Mexico called Atlisco. So basically this happened to me when I was about like 6 or 7. It was I think a Friday night. I was coming back from watching Spider-Man 1, the Tobey Maguire version. Um, I was like excited. I was a kid. I was into superheroes and all that. So we were walking home, and just as a side note, like streets in rural Mexico are very eerie because they're so preserved. They look colonial. So I was already, it was really late, so it was kind of like already setting the mood for what I was about to experience. Anyways, I got home to my grandma's house, and my grandma's house is kind of like a community with a bunch of houses inside and like a main patio area with a well, because this house is so that my grandma used to have to get water from a well. But we were at my grandma's house. I was freaking out about Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, and all that. But all of a sudden, everything stopped. I had to stay inside my grandma's house, and like my grandma's freaking out about something, and I still didn't know what it was. She was telling us basically, don't go out there until I tell you. I think my uncle was there too, and he was out there, kind of like, because like he was like a man, taking care of the family and all that. So like he was telling my grandma like it's bad, and like they knew what it was already because I guess it happened before. But she was saying like, don't let the kid out there. It's already bad energy in here. I don't want anything to happen to him. But being a kid, I was curious and stubborn. And my grandma's house was a couple doors that you could go out of. So I was like running through, I was trying to get a peek of what it was. My grandma's house is located, like I said, in a community with all different houses for our family. But everything is inside this property. And in order to get inside, there's a big gate that you have to go through, and someone has to let you in. You either have to get let in or you have to have a key. So there was no reason for like a stranger to be inside. You either have to, someone had to let him in or something. So even already without the paranormal aspect to it, it was already weird because it was a stranger inside. Was essentially like, the family's property. And I took a peek out, and basically what I saw was the best way I could describe it. It looks like a shadowy, evil farmer. He was by the well that I was explaining about before. He's in a. I guess the best way I could say, like maybe like you ever seen like Joe Cool, the way he stands. He was leaning against it, and he was trying to. I guess it was like a very mysterious pose. But yeah, like I didn't know what it was, and eventually I found out that there's this urban legend around my community that I used to live on, that it was like an apparition of the devil. And there's like many accounts of this. The belief is that he would target weaker people, and those people will either disappear for a couple of days and come back in a state of shock, or some people even say that people disappear and just never came back. Yeah, it screwed me up when I heard about it. But and then it kind of ruined superhero movies for me too. But that it's crazy because then I started seeing like noticing a lot of other off stuff. We were following this bicyclist, and my mom used to be like the cook. She used to cook for them, and it was like a long tour. But we stopped at this even like more rural town, and apparently she had La Llorona appear. I guess that translates to the crier, or like the crying girl or something. And the legend is that she cries and goes around towns just screaming about her kids because she accidentally drowned them, or she drowned her kids and now she regrets it. So she's looking everywhere for her kids. And I guess they freaked out because I remember being even younger, and I remember her waking me up, getting in the truck, and like we sped out of there because I guess it was coming down, and you could hear the screams all the way across the town basically, and like the cries. But she was coming. There's big stairs coming down, and the church is at the top, and you just see her coming down. Because like I said, you remember little glimpses of things that really kind of, I guess, scarred you or traumatized you, or you just remember something important. I remember seeing like just a lady in all white, and it's not like even like exaggerated, like she had blood everywhere and she was like you know looked dead or whatever, but it was just like this weird lady in white just coming down really really slowly, and you could just hear it all over the place. She's like just screaming it, and then the next thing I know, we're like in a car just speeding out of the town, and we're getting into the freeway, just like going and going, and my mom is like over here holding me like for dear life and all that. But yeah, I mean, there's like, it's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit. Part of me a lot of the times is like, oh, this didn't happen and all that, but like for me to remember so specifically what I saw, and I know there's gonna be people that were like, you were a kid, whatever, but I could still take myself back to that and still feel like, the coldness of it.
That one really got to me. I think something with the first story especially, I think if you've never lived somewhere rural, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of somebody, just if you live in a city, somebody being on your in your property is not that weird. And there's a lot of reasons for it. People wander around, but out in the middle of nowhere, it's very weird. People don't do it. Especially in America, that's a good way to get yourself shot by some farmer. But just the mere presence of somebody out there is jarring. And especially given the context, it's really frightening. It's funny with these stories, there's often like some detail that's not quite relevant. Like for this one, it was the Spider-Man. And in the original email he sent me, it was a lot about Spider-Man. I think the headline was even like, my Spider-Man story. I almost skipped it because I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen to a Spider-Man ghost story, but it just turned out that he was like really, really into Spider-Man that night. It's funny how that kind of stuff can like burn into your memory with something that's so scary, because it's like, it's what you were focusing on the time before it got weird. But anyway, I thought that was a really great story. Another one from a different country, which is really cool to hear. They're all different. I get really bored of American ghost stories. They're all the same. I can't even. I tune them out now. I've heard too many. I even have one. I have one about a cowboy ghost that happened in my family. Which actually, it's a pretty good ghost story, but it's like, you've all heard various versions of it. And we're too used to it, so it's awesome to hear ones from other countries. This brings us to our last ghost story. I thought this one was really cool. This actually takes place here in California. It's semi-local. It's in San Diego. And it's a true, it's a full-on ghost story. And it was interesting. It was interesting interviewing this person because I could tell they were really scared retelling it. It was something that really scared them. So I'm just going to let him take it from here. This is Joaquim telling the first bit. And actually, I wound up going a little deeper on this, so I'll just let him start and we'll go from there.
I live in San Diego. I went to college down here, and there's a community down here called Pacific Beach, or PB is what locals call it. And it's a really cool part of town. There's a bunch of partying, there's a bunch of pretty people. There's a ton of stuff to do. And we basically paid a ton of money to live in some just nasty surf shack. So we live here, and we move in, and you deal with a bunch of shit like rats, bugs, broken pipes, yada yada. And it's a really old place. Like, it looks one of those neo-modern places from like the 70s that looked like it was used to be really cool to live there, but now it just has a bunch of old people, druggies and stuff like that. But we lived about a mile away from the beach, and it was really nice, and lived there for about 2 years. No problems at all. So we're moving out because basically I had to finish college and I was partying too much and I had to slow it down. And I just hear, I'm in my room picking up and packing up my room, and I hear down the hallway to the right just, motherfucker, fuck, son of a bitch, fucking hate you, fucking idiot, I fucking hate you, and just worse words than that I can't even say. I saw, like, someone squatted down, and there was their back and their, like, butt squatted down, and that's all I saw out of the closet, and clothes was just flying out. Like, out of the closet while he's cussing. And I thought it was my roommate, because my roommate worked at restaurants and he was a busboy and he was all in black. So, like, it looked fitting, you know what I mean? And my roommate's a shorter guy. So, like, it was like a smaller stature person. And, like, I honest to God, I haven't described that to anybody that in that much detail in a while. And that just fucked me up a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, that's 100% what I saw, dude. Stone cold sober. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? So I walk out my room, go down the hallway to the right, and I walk in there and I see my roommate's room just thrashed, clothes everywhere, stuff spilled over, things flipped over. I'm like, what the hell? And my roommate would drink and have a temper every once in a while. So I just kind of thought we were just pissed we were moving out. And I kind of just dismissed it. So I turned around, go back down the hallway to the left side of the hallway, and my roommate walks right in. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm a brown guy, so I basically turned pale white. And I turned pale white, and I go back into his room. I turn around and run in just disbelief, and the room is just clean, tidy, packed up, ready to move. And I go, what the fuck just happened? I talk to my roommate. I'm like, what the hell was that? And he goes, oh, that's the first time you saw him? And I'm just chills still go down my spine from the top of my head down to my toes, frickin' of just how horrifying that is. And he told me that he's had conversations with the kid. He told me he was a little kid that lived there and he was mad that we were moving out. He told me that he would basically lived in the closet. And I'm like, dude, why would you tell me that? He lived in the closet, and the closet door would open. And there was actually one time I was in there, like, really late night. We were drunk, and it was like in the summer, and the room was just freezing cold. I'm like, why the fuck is your room so cold? What the hell? And there's no air conditioning. If you live in San Diego, very few of the houses have air conditioning because it's kind of just a waste. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is it so cold? It's in the middle of summer. And he's just like, I don't know, man. There's a draft in here sometimes. And then he told me, like, when the kid would show up, the room would go ice cold, the door would open. And he would show up as like he described it to me as like a cloudy person, like it was a cloud almost. But when I saw it, it looked like my friend, like it looked like his back. And he just never wanted to tell me because he knows that I would have been freaked out and didn't want to live there. And I guess he just put up with it to party. So, yeah.
All right, so I thought this was a cool story, but it also to me felt like the tip of the iceberg. So I was wondering about the roommate. He mentions this roommate who has been living with the ghost, and I had to get him on the phone. So eventually, I was able to get a hold of this roommate, and we were able to talk. So here is his roommate, Chris, and I'll let him take it from here.
Well, I'm someone who had suffered from sleep paralysis since I was a teenager. At the time I was living with Joaquin, my roommate, we were probably about 22, 23 years old. And then, so we were living in that apartment. I got sleep paralysis there, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's really super, super gnarly situation. So I was dealing with that, but that's something I've dealt with for years and years. The parts that threw me off was when you're in sleep paralysis, you're stuck there. You're like in some type of in-between state. Your mind is very conscious, but you can't move your body no matter what. So I chalked up a lot of like weird situations to that sleeping. However, in this situation, I knew it was different because when odd things started happening, like I'd be asleep in my room, lights off, I'd hear water bottles fall over. I'd hear stuff like that, and to me, I'm a person who tries to justify things. I'm like, you know what, maybe a gust of wind hit, maybe it was the fan. It's just easier for me as a person to try to justify through logical outcomes. So that stuff started happening, and it started happening more, and then I had to be real with myself. I was just like, okay, this is something different going on here. This isn't sleep paralysis, your window's closed, the fan's not on, things are moving. And when I get up to turn the light on, of course, there'd be a water bottle on the ground, or things moved around, shuffled a little bit here and there. And then, okay, so that was happening. I was like, that's weird, but I don't know, just gotta continue life, I guess. And then I started hearing, I was always the one to sleep with my closet door open. And then I started hearing shuffling in the closet as well. And then when that brought me out of sleep, I was like, Jesus, like, what's going on now? And to be honest with you, like, the first time it happened, I was kind of just stuck. Yeah. I didn't really, like, have the balls to get up and, like, go to the closet, so to speak, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Because I can't really justify, like, a gust of wind hitting my closet at that point, or even anything else. So I was like, oh, man, shit. So, okay, that started to happen. The water bottle stuff, or the stuff moving around, that never stopped either. When it really came into fruition, though, is I was playing video games. I had like this little futon couch in my room, and at the time, and I was playing video games there, and I was by myself, and Walk was at work or whatever. Dylan was at the apartment, and I'm sitting there playing my video game, and then I just feel like this rush go by me, so to speak. And then, like, I turn and I see like this like a little silhouette of like a kid almost, so to speak, but at the back of him, like running in there. I was like, do you want to talk about stuck? I didn't move at all. I was just sitting there and just like in shock, like what's going on here? Like, just utter shock. So finally, like, I had to do something, I wasn't just gonna just stay sitting there. So I got up and I looked in the closet. It was nothing out of the ordinary in there. But at the same time, I know what I saw, And at that point, I was in low-key shock, but I just started talking to it, Yeah. Whatever it was. I needed to have some sort of comfort. And I was like just explaining myself, I guess. I was like, hey, my name's Chris. I live here. Just trying to ease the tension in my mind, Just letting it know that I'm present, whatever it was. And just talking to it, making conversation, and that's the way I coped with seeing it, and in that situation. None of the things stopped whatsoever. Like, none of the moving of things, none of the shuffling in the closet, nothing stopped, but I felt like it wasn't coming from a sinister, harmful place. I didn't know what to think, but I didn't think I was ever being attacked or anything like that. So that made me put at ease, and I'd speak to it all the time and talk to it, and then I never saw him. I never saw his face like that. I could feel a presence, though, always. Or not always, but most of the time.
And what about in the closet? You would just be messing around in there?
Yeah, messing around, moving stuff. Like, just had my t-shirts, on the hangers. When hangers click? Yeah. Like, hangers click like that. I kept papers in there, shuffled around. Mostly the hanger plastics hitting each other. I always try to have him be comfortable, and it was more of a selfish comfort, because it was more of a comfort for me. You don't want that enemy. You don't want that, and I know it had nothing to do with like its well-being. I wasn't like trying to help him out. It was just strictly for me, and in that way it was super selfish, and maybe I should have looked at the situation differently. But for me, I just needed to go on with my daily life and not that be in the back of my head every night. So I just figured keep peace and keep communication, and it helped me. It helped me cope.
All right, welcome back. I want to thank Joaquim and Chris for talking to me with that one. Also, Joaquim actually is starting a website where he is going to be putting up a written version of that. He's kind of starting like a digital magazine. It's called Jaywalk, and he wanted me to give it a plug. It's JEAWOK.com, and I think it's going to be launching soon, but it's not launched yet. So be on the lookout, and good luck with that. And thank you guys for telling that story. That pretty much brings us to the end of the Halloween special here. I feel like we've been going for a long time, and hopefully you've enjoyed these stories. I mean, I've had a good time doing this. It's been really cool hearing these. The thing that sucks is that there's so many that I didn't have time to record, or just simply it would have been like an 8-hour long episode if I did record all of these. But I wanted to leave you with one that I got an email about, but I didn't record. This comes from a guy named Wes, and I'll just summarize it for you right now. He says, I was asleep in my room, and I have no idea what time it was. It was the middle of the night. It was really dark. I woke up out of my slumber to see my room door open with a short, dark shadow a foot inside my door. I made a confused gurgle as I woke up and saw this, which the shadow seemed to recognize. And at first, it was gliding into my room, but then on the spot, it started gliding backwards out of my room in the exact same place as it was coming in, and it closed the door behind itself. I had no idea what I saw or didn't see. I just rolled over and went back to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I went to tell my roommates about this apparition I saw the night before, or maybe it was some kind of waking dream. He wasn't really sure at the time. And when he went and talked to his roommates about it, they informed him that he had not seen an apparition. In fact, there was a robber in the house, making their way from room to room, stealing shit. And it was actually not a short apparition. It was a 50-year-old woman who was 5 foot 1 inch tall, who broke into their house and was stealing all their stuff. They found this out because she left her wallet, backpack, and ID in the house by mistake, and they were able to track her down. And it was some 50-year-old woman that broke in, but he thought he was seeing a ghost. So I wanted to talk to him about that and tell it on the podcast, but I thought that would be a good way to end it. I guess they were able to track her down with like the Find My Phone thing, and I assume she got arrested. But yeah, I guess not always. It's not always a ghost. Sometimes it's just a middle-aged woman stealing all of your shit. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the Halloween episode. I, for one, am a huge nerd for all this stuff. I routinely stay up entire nights, just not sleeping, reading weird shit on the internet. Was super stoked to get a bunch of original stories sent to us. And thank you, everyone who sent stuff in. I also want to thank my friend Pat, aka North Americans, for letting me use your music on this episode. And thank you guys for being our patrons. You're not allowed to leave. That's how this works. But no, seriously, thank you for being our patrons. And I hope you enjoyed the Halloween episode as much as I did. I had a really good time making it. And yeah, happy Halloween, everybody.